The wildcard is active. I've hit the magic button finally, and I'm delighted to show you in today's video my team. For many, it was right to wildcard in game week 6. For many, it will be right to wait till game week 8 or later down the line. But for my team, right here, right now, I think this is the right play, and I'm delighted to show you where I'm at. So before we show you who comes into the team, let me show you who stays. And this is quite fun. Like, how many changes would you make on wildcard is always a question I want to ask myself. Now, this is, look, arguably, this is 5 players, only 5 players stay, but all 4 of them, the 4 outfield players, are always in my 11. So 4 of my 11 will change. Of course, with wildcard, you would always change the wider squad. But 4 of the 11 is still huge, huge changes, right? Dubravka in goal is my backup goalkeeper, is likely to stay. Senesi's locked on wildcard. Reinders, Haaland, and João Pedro are also locked on wildcard, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Guys, I'm going to show you now as we move forward, not only a wildcard team, but then at the end of today's video, I'm going to show you the 8 players that I'm still considering that could come in. Okay, so when I show you my lock team or my deadline, you will know exactly why, and it will be from that pool of 8 players. But I think I'm pretty close. And guys, I want to show you the fixture ticket to start with, because if you're on wildcard or even if you're not, filtered by attacking difficulty all the way through to game week 16, which is when AFCON hits. Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, City, all top of the ticker. And we've got a lot of Arsenal. We've got Newcastle. We've got City in this draft. Liverpool maybe need a little bit more of. But Mo Salah is, of course, a headache. So look, let's show you where we're at. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about Arsenal, because, of course, they played on Wednesday night. And this is the 11 Arsenal put out. Now, we expected a few changes and we got them. The big news here was Eze and Saka got a rest. Gyokeres still played 90. Is that a concern? I don't know. Didn't score either. And he rotated the fullbacks. Calafiori and Timber are clearly the first choice fullbacks. But many will notice there that Gabriel came off it was around 70th minute for Mascara. And many were worried about Gabriel, because at first, Arteta's quote was he was struggling a little bit with a kick in the first half. We had to take him off. Didn't sound great. But then Arteta continued to say he could carry on, but he's played a lot of games. He's coming from a long-term injury. We have to look after him. That worries me a little bit. And if I own Gabriel, you're going to be keeping him and hoping. But Arteta's never one to tell us absolutely everything, is he? So that there is a chance Gabriel doesn't make it. We will be looking for training ground pictures on Friday, I expect. But I think from this, we can take, it's very likely Gabriel will be around, and then he maybe misses the international break. Who knows? So look, let's show you the team, shall we? If you've enjoyed this video so far or got anything from it, hit the like button, but also do subscribe if you're new around here and drop a comment. I will respond to all comments, and I want to know what you think to this wildcard team. So please do, good, bad, or ugly, drop a comment. So look, we'll work through it position by position before we get to that pool of 8 players that I mentioned. So in goal, there's no David Raya, you may notice. Yeah, like he is the set and forget goalkeeper, isn't he? But when you look at the Newcastle fixtures, they rival Arsenal and you save 0.5. So I look at these Newcastle fixtures, 3rd in the Fantasy Football Scout ticker, and the vast majority of weeks, I'm going to be playing him. In game week 12, he plays Man City. In game week 8, he goes to Brighton. And I go, okay, who does Dubravka have? Well, in game week 8, I could play Dubravka, home to Leeds. And in game week 12, Dubravka's, yeah, I mean, he's got Chelsea at home, not the best fixture. But other than those two, pretty much Pope's a set and forget. I'm very happy there with Nick Pope as an option. The benefit of Nick Pope isn't also that he makes more saves than Raya, and he could equal the clean sheets Raya gets. It's that his team do less around him than Arsenal do around Raya. So bonus points, the weighting of bonus towards Pope is higher than the weighting towards Raya, especially off his back line. So Pope better for bonus, better for saves, and 0.5 cheaper. I think that's the direction I'm going in. It also then leaves a route open to double Arsenal attack. And I think that's quite important too. Let's get to the defence though. Gabriel is in, unless I'm scared on Friday by what we hear, and then I go to like a Calafiori or a Timber. Probably go to a Timber, a little bit more reliable in terms of his fitness. Senesi there, a set and forget. I don't think we need to discuss Senesi. He's gone up in price since I bought him in game week 4. As things stand, I've got Richards. I want a Crystal Palace defender, and I would argue Richards is the best value of the bunch. There's not much between Richards and Lacroix. I mean, and then you look at, it's not even just Richards and Lacroix. It's Richards, Lacroix, it's Munoz. They're all brilliant options, and Crystal Palace is a little bit of a headache for me. I mean, let me know in the chat what Crystal Palace asset you have. But I expect many on wildcard will be going to the 4.5 million option in Richards because he's just cheaper and he's good for DEFCON. When we look at this from Tom Hadley on Twitter, he's looked at the conversions, the average defensive contributions that a defender gets. At Senesi 13.5 a game, but the percentage of his games where he hits it, so 100% Senesi. If you go down, you'll see Richards there at 50%. Lacroix's hit it in one more game, but they both average 10.5. So there's very little to separate them. And I think with that in mind, I'm going to go Richards. If money's not an issue, though, I'll spend the extra on Lacroix, who definitely has the goal threat. Rodon could be the best 4 million option. That's purely by fixtures. Obviously, the Sunderland defenders are great. I like Sunderland very much. Mukalele's definitely part of my thinking. Alderete's gone up in price, but you'll see Sunderland there at the bottom of the ticker. They don't have the best fixtures. Leeds have got slightly better fixtures. And as part of my rotation, I think Rodon could be slightly better. Again, Rodon doesn't feature on this list. He has hit DEFCON, not as often as the Sunderland guys. Look at Mukalele there, 75% hit rate of hitting DEFCON and an average of 12.8. That's a real tempter, and I think there's a good chance I end up on him. And then Kilman comes in. Why have you got a West Ham defender, Gianni? Well, they've got a new manager, and we know what this new manager does. Nuno plays without the ball, and because he plays without the ball, his defenders have got great chance of hitting DEFCON. We saw it last year with Murillo. We saw it last year with Milenkovic. And they're going to keep more clean sheets. Oh, and the West Ham fixtures are good. I like these West Ham fixtures. You take out Arsenal in game week 7, and then it's Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, Burnley, Bournemouth. That's a really good run of 5 games. And that's when I want a West Ham defender. Areola in goal, by the way, is 4.3 million and also a tempter. But it would be a backup and he'd be on the bench most of the time. So Kilman's going to be the best centre-back at West Ham. Diouf is also 4.4, who's going to get assists. He's had 4 already this season. No player has had more than Diouf. But Kilman, just for defensive contributions, feels smarter. That's the predictable metric, DEFCON. Assists, less predictable, probably less regular. That defense feels pretty set, other than maybe a different Palace defender and maybe a different 4 million option. And Gabriel if he's injured. But Senesi, Kilman, absolutely locked. I think Pope and Dubravka are locked there for me as well. Let's look at the midfield then and see where this team is so different to the team we showed you like at the start of the video. My team has only Reinders in. I am making 4 midfield changes here. That is huge. And a lot centres around the Bukayo Saka start at the weekend. Seeing him benched against Olympiacos was brilliant. I needed that. If he'd played 90 versus Olympiacos, I'd have been worried. If he got kicked against Olympiacos, I'd have been worried. But he not only came on late, he scored a goal. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is absolutely what I wanted from Bukayo. He's got goal threat. He's got the good fixture at home. West Ham are going to be much improved. They're not going to be whipping boys now, but they're still a fixture you can target. And as we look at Arsenal, a lot of the reason for wildcard is Bukayo Saka. I want him for West Ham, but then I want him for Palace and I want him for Fulham before that. And then in 10 and 11, yes, I want him for Burnley and Sunderland. And sure, there's going to be some midweek rotation. But when you look at the Arsenal fixtures, I think there'll be some rotation for Saka in some of those Champions League or midweek games. So look, he's going to start before the Crystal Palace game. He's got Atletico Madrid. He's going to play that one. But then EFL Cup, he's got Brighton before Burnley. Very good option there for a rest. Before Sunderland, he's got Slavia Prague. Like, there's a very good option for a rest there in the Champions League. So we might just see Saka have reduced minutes in the midweek games, but I expect sets of 90 in all these Premier League football matches. And Saka, I think, is a really nice differential for me in terms of where I want to go. Of course, Salah is dangerous. Selling Salah, he's wounded. Liverpool have got good fixtures. But Saka, for me, for the fixtures, edges it. The other benefit of having a Saka here is having a 10 million midfielder. If I want to jump on a Cole Palmer or even get to a Salah, it's much easier. Look at Cole Palmer's fixtures after the international break. Like, he's got a nice run there. Forest, Sunderland, Tottenham, Wolves, Burnley. And I think if having a placeholder like Saka with the same money spent makes sense. Then we've got Semenyo, and Semenyo wasn't. I wanted to back against Semenyo, and the more and more I look at Semenyo, I just think, Gianni, you're trying to be too clever. Takes free kicks, takes penalties when Kluivert's not on the pitch, definitely. Talisman and no midweek football. No Champions League football is huge for Bournemouth, and I want to target that with this wild card for a few teams. It's a shame. Crystal Palace I love, but they've got European football. Of course, your Arsenals and your Man Cities will always have midweek football. But teams like Bournemouth and teams like Brighton are very good, and Everton, and don't have midweek football. And they're teams we could look at. So there's no Everton in this wild card, but there is a Brighton player and there is a Bournemouth player. And again, the Bournemouth fixtures are great. Semenyo's the 90-minute man. All the other players in the attacking lineup come off for Bournemouth quite regularly. Semenyo doesn't. And then Minter, again, I think he's become first choice wide man. It's him on the right, obviously Matoma on the left, but we're seeing Matoma get early subs and not Minter. And I like those Brighton fixtures again at 5.9 million. I really like Minter as an option. For the immediate, he's going to spend a bit of time on the bench. Wolves, Newcastle, Man United, Leeds, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Forest, Villa, West Ham. That's an amazing run. And Brighton are a team that I always feel like will score a goal. Now, you could have a sensible DEFCON pick on your bench and a Xhaka, right? The problem is, for me, is the games I want to bring them into play are the games where I want to chase ceiling. So do I have a DEFCON Elliot Anderson or Xhaka on the bench who I go, yeah, I'm going to bring him in. He's got a great fixture. I get 4 points. Or a Minter where you go, yeah, I'm going to bring him in. And he's had way more blanks than the other players that have had 4 points a lot on your bench. Minter's had loads of 2s on your bench, but you target a fixture and you go, oh, Minter, I know I'm going to play him Leeds at home in game week 10. That's the ceiling game where he goes way above, I hope, the 4 points because I'm bringing in an explosive option rather than bringing in a sensible option who's got more points on my bench. So I feel like for your 8th attacker or your 5th midfielder, if they're going to spend a lot of time on your bench, go for the explosive option because the games they play, the games you select them, that's when you hope they can go big and they've got a higher chance of doing that than the DEFCON beast. Ismaila Sarr has been playing in the front too. Ismaila Sarr is playing up front with Mateta. It's effectively a front two now at Palace since Eze's left, and Pino's deeper than Eze was. Again, Palace don't have the best fixtures, but this is just a team I want to back. Sarr is a brilliant source of goals, and he's so cheap at 6.4. Some lovely differentials in this team now. Minter and Sarr and Saka, huge differentials. And then we're going Reinders, and you'll notice like Reinders is a set and forget for me. I bang the drum hard pre-season. He's not going anywhere. Now, there's no DEFCON midfielders here. And that's okay because we've got lots of DEFCON centre-backs. And I feel like there's the shift. At the moment, getting DEFCON for a defender is way easier because they have to hit 10 versus the midfielders hitting 12. But also the way teams are playing, we're seeing a lot of long ball in the Premier League. And with that, the defenders are mopping up DEFCON. Last year, midfielders were really good at DEFCON, probably better than defenders. And when we look over the last 5 years, midfielders were better, even though they had to hit 12. But this year, we're seeing DEFCON achieved way more by defenders than midfielders, not just because of the points threshold, but because of the tactical shift. Teams are going longer. We're seeing long throws. We're seeing more reliance on set pieces. We're seeing back to front quicker. And with all of that, it's centre-backs clearing the ball. We've got to take note. And when you look at those defenders, they're all centre-backs. They're all good for DEFCON. Let's talk about those forwards, shall we? Guys, by the way, thank you for hitting that subscribe button. I really do appreciate you hitting that subscribe button if you're new around here. I stream a couple of times a week. The Sunday debrief's the one you can't miss. And I do these team selections every Thursday, Friday as well. João Pedro. I tweeted saying, like, massive headache for me. Because a few days ago, I saw him as my route to Gyokeres. I saw him as someone I could drop. I saw no Liam Delap and no Cole Palmer, and seeing this as a bit of a taking its toll on João Pedro. But actually, since then, he got sent off in the Champions League, which means he's now not going to play, Champions League football between game week 8 and 9. So again, I feel like his 8 and 9 minutes are safe. And this is even bigger news since I tweeted this. He's not been called up to the Brazil squad because of his knock. So with all of that in mind, I'm like, oh, he's safe now for Forest. He's safe for Sunderland. Oh, and Spurs in game week 10, he's got an EFL Cup before it where he could be rested. João Pedro is just obvious now. So João Pedro is going to stay in this football team, and we'll see that front line very soon. Because I was going to wildcard João Pedro out, but this changed. A lot changed. That front line, not much has changed, right? Gyokeres has come in, Watkins has gone, and selling Watkins ahead of Burnley might be foolish. And I know that's a huge, huge gamble. But I got to do it because I want Gyokeres long term. And Watkins, I still question Villa massively. Time to get rid of my Villa asset. Watkins, nice parting gift for 8 points. Please don't hurt me too much versus Burnley. But coming in is Gyokeres, who is much better long term. Arsenal's main man. The fact Arteta's giving him sets of 90 against Olympiacos makes me think, one, he wants him to get a goal. his confidence. But two, he's clearly a fitness monster. And I think he's shown that in his career. He's very, very durable and he's very good at playing sets of 90. So Gyokeres, I'm confident, still maintains all his starts. Arsenal need him. He's their only number 9 at the moment with no Havertz or no Jesus. But also he's a flat track bully. His hauls this season came against Leeds and he returned versus Forest. Now, when you look at the Arsenal fixtures, he's playing those sorts of middling to lower half teams, like West Ham, like Burnley, like Sunderland, mid-table, like Fulham and Palace. Haul potential for Gyokeres, I've got no doubt. Haaland, we don't need to discuss. If you don't own him, go and buy him. Another brace in the week against Monaco. And João Pedro, we've touched on. So that's the front line that I'm really happy with. There is another forward, and there is midfielders and defenders that I like. So let me show you those. They could work their way in. But before I do, guys, if you're not a channel member, and most of you aren't, do consider it if you want extra videos. Pretty much doing videos most days. Like this week, I must have done 3 or 4 channel member videos. And then me on the go on my mobile phone talking about a topic. Like I did midfield differentials a couple of days ago where I talked about players like Minter and Saar and a few others. If you want to be a member, click the join button below or there's a link in the description. Ultras are in the WhatsApp group and that's a more considered purchase and that's completely cool. But yeah, check it out if you want. These players could make their way in. I've just cropped a section of a team to show you 8, 9 players that could still make its way in. Raya is very unlikely because that would mean I go double defense. Unless Gabriel comes out if we knew he was injured. I'm going Saka and I'm going Gyokeres. So Raya would only come in if Gabriel was injured. The back line, Anderson's brilliant and so good for DEFCON. And look, when we look, Anderson's, on this list, he's had DEFCON in 83% of his games. He averages 11. You need 12. Fulham have got meh fixtures, middling fixtures. But that section from like game week 9 to 12 is really good for Fulham. I could go Anderson over, say, a Richards, but it feels foolish dropping Crystal Palace defender because they've just been so good. Forget the opposition. Palace are great. And actually, I'd love to go to WILDCARD. He's just an awesome option because he's got some goal threat, but it's 0.6 more. And then Mukiele might just be the standout 4 million option. Again, Mukiele second in this table. We hit DEFCON on average 75% of the time, but he hits 12.8 as an average. I think out of all these players, Mukiele is probably the one that comes in. Foden's been on my mind since day one. He always is when he's playing well, but I feel like I've already got too many Man City. Like, do I really need to go Phil Foden when I've got Reinders and Haaland already? Fixtures are great, sure, but triple City attack might feel a little bit naive. This is interesting, Anthony Gordon. Guys, listen up for this. If you didn't already know, on Wednesday night, Newcastle got a penalty. Walter was on the pitch. Gordon took the penalty, scored. Newcastle get another penalty, and Walter, being the £80 million striker, goes for the ball. He wants to take it. And Gordon says, no, I'm designated penalty taker. I don't care that the game is won. I don't care that I've already had a penalty. I'm taking the second one. Gordon's absolutely on pens, right? 2 out of 2. That changes everything. He's expensive at 7.4. And I look at my team and I think, how do I get Anthony Gordon in? And I'm going to show you in a second how I could. But the Newcastle fixtures are great. Long-term, Gordon would be an awesome purchase, I've got no doubt. My fear with Gordon is he's not always going to be a 90-minute man. You'll get some early subs. The likes of Barnes and Jacob Murphy and Alanga. And then they've gone and bought Ramsey from Villa. These guys will get minutes and they will maybe into Gordon's minutes. Not starts, but maybe minutes. And then Paqueta, again, you get penalties and you get DEFCON. Is Paqueta better than a Minter? Maybe he is. He's also taken set pieces for Nuno. We saw that on Monday night against Everton because Ward-Prowse is out the team under Nuno. Didn't like him. We saw that at Forest. Paqueta, deeper than he was under Potter, but going to be on more. Really worth considering. And then up front, I think I'm set with my front three, but I like Strand Larsen very much. And then Calvert-Lewin if you change how you're going to set up. But how do I get a Gordon or a Paqueta in this team? I think they're the most obvious. Well, let me show you. Minter, Paqueta, same price point. They could swap. Gordon would have to come in for Semenyo, and I don't want to do that. The other option is Gordon comes in for a Saar, and Minter goes down to like an enabler. Again, I don't want to do that. I can't see how I fit Gordon in easily unless I take Semenyo out. So let me know in the comments, guys. Do you prefer Gordon? Do you prefer Semenyo? Do you prefer Paqueta? Do you prefer Minter? Do you prefer Anderson? Or do you prefer Richards? A lot of questions there. I'd love you to answer them and help me out. Guys, I will reveal my wildcard team for sure, locked in on my Friday deadline stream. Do not miss that. And for now, I'll see you in the next. Bye-bye.